question to you is, do you think this is appropriate for a filmmaker to release this when the individual is dead and he can't defend himself?
I think so, because when Michael was alive, there were so many payouts. There was a circle around him to protect him from these accusers, from these allegations. And there were supposedly a lot of payoffs. We had the young man, I think his name was Jordy. He was paid about $20 million. So is it appropriate? Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of criticism that there is no one from Michael's camp in the film to dispute these allegations. So I haven't seen the documentary. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And
I'm racing home from here.
And perhaps they should have given Michael's camp a chance to tell his side of the story.
Harvey, did you see it? Because I know you were you at Sundance? Did you?
I did not see it, but I'm jumping on that. I do want to see it because it's hard to, kind of pass judgment without seeing all the evidence. But if you have no one from from his camp representing his side of the story, so it's like, I want to hear everyone's side of the story. I think it'd want to be fair to get everyone's side.
Alina, can you think of a case? Because I'm trying to where someone who was accused of something, it was posthumous, that they were sort of doing a movie about, because I can't think of anybody. It feels like a first.
Yeah.
Where they're airing something about huge allegations, but the person's not living anymore. Have they had anything like that before?
I can't think of anything like this.
No.
But I think if Michael were alive, there would be so many legal ramifications. I mean, his estate has already hit HBO with a $100 million lawsuit saying that they violated a disparagement clause.
Yes.
So imagine if Michael were alive. I think they would be doing everything that they could to stop this film.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, just this week, prior to the film being released this Sunday, both accusers sat down with Oprah Winfrey, and they also sat down for CBS this morning, for what I thought were pretty compelling and striking interviews. So Anita, what parts of those interviews did you find the most striking or the most shocking or surprising that you learned?
I think the two men have provided so much detail. It's very difficult to deny what they're saying. Now, I do know a lot of people in the industry who don't believe these men, who say they are just trying to get money. But the director, Dan Reed, has said no cash was exchanged. There were no payments. And I also want to say that there's a stigma coming forward, especially as a man, to say, I was molested. I was just watching You Got Served a few days ago, and all I could think when Wade Robson came on screen was, Michael Jackson allegedly molested
him.
Yeah.
So my question about that, dialing back for a second, because Wade Robson was the star witness when Michael Jackson went on trial the first time for the young gentleman that you just referenced, that he paid out the settlement. And they said that Wade Robson's testimony is largely why he was acquitted. Because he was on the stand and said, now in the Gayle interview and the Oprah interview, they questioned him on that. They said, you testified and said that he didn't do anything. What changed? And he says, I was being conditioned. Michael would say, and I'm paraphrasing to him at the time, if you tell anybody, both of us will go to jail, both our lives will be over. Do you find that it is in line with sort of and I'll ask you, Harvey, with everything you read, not that we're psychologists here, but do you feel that the behavior and the testimony that he's giving in this time around is in line with how a victim would operate?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for any victim, because everyone's journey is their own thing. But I do feel that we are so obsessed with it's become a form of entertainment. It's we got the story from Michael when he was alive, and now that he's passed away, we want to hear more, and we want to go the nitty gritty. We want to know more, so we keep digging. So the truth eventually will come out. And so if this is what this documentary is going to do, then unfortunately that's the truth, and we have to present it to the world, and we see it as it is. But it's very unfortunate that they can't have anyone from his party defend him, because it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Yeah.
Did you watch the interviews, both the Oprah and the Gayle, or at least see clips?
We actually have a clip for Oprah, if we can run that. It's in the tweet that I sent. So Oprah's the OWN network says Oprah reveals the reason she wanted to film after Neverland, and then tune in. But let's see if we can roll that clip.
Okay.
And tried to get the message across to people that sexual abuse was not just abuse, it was also sexual seduction. But for me, this moment transcends Michael Jackson. It is much bigger than any one person.
Oh, okay.
This is a moment in time.
I think that what she's saying is that this moment in time, so many people are coming forward with their truths, whether it was, sexual assault in the Me Too movement, or, just people are coming forward with their victim, hood. So maybe right now, these men feel now is the time that maybe they'll be believed. I think at the time when he was, testifying that nothing happened, the culture was a lot different. Michael was still alive. There probably still was that threat of, we'll come after you somehow, we'll sue you, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So probably embarrassment that these victims felt.
There were also children at the time, and they say that Wade says he was coached on what to say. So it's just a really, really difficult situation. But I want to say this about Oprah. Oprah has gone on the record numerous times and said that she was molested repeatedly as a child, and she is an advocate for childhood sexual abuse survivors. And she says she knows there will be pushback from this interview. Her special is called After Neverland.
Yes.
But she felt so strongly that she wanted to interview these people. She saw like a pre-copy, and she wanted to be a part of this. And by Oprah injecting herself into this, it gives this film even more credibility.
Right.
And also with Gayle KIng, her best friend, interviewing that. Well, here's the interesting thing with it coming out of Sundance too. Before the film was even screened, you had Michael Jackson defenders coming out against the film before even seeing a shred of the film. So the interesting thing to me is, in watching them, if you had come into this, did you guys find them credible? Like, did you find the accusers credible when you were watching them?
I did. From the clips I've seen, and I actually interviewed people who watched the film at Sundance and for a story, and they told me that it was horrifying, it was troubling. There are so many disturbing allegations in this film that at the Sundance screening, they had psychologists on hand to counsel the journalists who were seeing it. The level of detail that they provided, you can't make that up. And I do want to say that I don't understand why a grown man was sleeping in the bed with other people's children. They say Michael went to extraordinary lengths to have these extra security measures outside of his bedroom. No one was allowed in his bedroom without him welcoming them in. There were cameras outside his bedroom. There were motion sensor detectors. There were alarms that would go off. So, for all the people who say it didn't happen, this is not normal.
What parents would let their kid? I don't understand. I don't care who you are. If you are my child, you are not going to have a sleepover with some grown man.
Yeah, no.
I don't care who he is.
But you guys know we are in Hollywood, and celebrity is like an aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
And people, we see this in the music industry. We see it in film and television. People, they lose their sense. The thought of the money, the fame, or even just close association with celebrity. We see it time and time again. And I do fault the parents. Wade Robson's mother, she's in the documentary, and she admits, I took a lot of gifts. I mean, Michael basically, he gave these people gifts worth a ton of money. And so they are just as much as fault.
At fault.
It's the thing that you just said. You hit the nail on the head. You said Hollywood, because any parent that you talk to outside of the Hollywood, hemisphere here, you will say, I would never let my goddamn kid go over with it. It is what you're saying. It's alluring. It's celebrity. You're saying they're showering them with gifts. The other kid, James Safechuck, was put in the commercial with Michael Jackson. So there was all that came along with that. So
he met Michael when they were doing a commercial. So I'm assuming that James, was cast in the film, and that's when he met.
That's when I meant he was cast in it. He met him, but then to my knowledge, that led to some kind of childhood gigs and stuff like that. Okay, so the Michael Jackson estate came out against, and they filed lawsuit, but HBO was very strong in there, we are forging right ahead. Harvey, do you think the Michael Jackson estate protesting as much as they are against this film is an even bigger red flag?
I think it says a lot to, being loyal to your client.
Yeah.
And protecting them to the end. And so the estate is still protecting Michael, even, he's passed away, but he's still being protected.
Yeah.
And as I think any lawyer would for any of their clients, I think that they're just fighting for his name not to be tarnished even more. I mean, at this point, it's already been dragged through the mud. At this point, it's like, if this is like what seals the deal and it's just the truth and it comes out, then let it come out. Let the truth just, surface and just come out and let everyone know, and then just seal it. And then we will have our complete story. It'll be locked and we know the truth and we can put that,
Do you think it's kind of funny on these parallel tracks almost, because you had Michael Jackson go on trial and then you had R. Kelly go on trial and you had them both acquitted the first time and then their careers were able to continue, and now you sort of have the roosters coming home, or the chickens coming home to roost, whereas like basically where was I going with this? Because in other words, for a long time it felt to me that you were not allowed to sort of be vocal. Like there was this sort of cult of like Michael Jackson supporters within the industry, and you, even if you had the opinion that you thought something was off, you weren't allowed, because you essentially, he had power back then to really kind of essentially do damage to you, essentially. Do you think that there's something to be said about that? Like that you sort of have like these parallel, because of the Me Too movement now that this is just sort of finally, quote unquote, for these accusers, justice in some way, shape, or form, or catharsis?
Well, it's always hard to separate like the artist. Like you love Michael Jackson for his music and you love the artistry that he brought to the world, but then it's like there's a person behind that artist, and their actions, they have to be held accountable for their actions. And so if they did something wrong, and it happens all the time where someone drives up the wrong entrance on the freeway, and they're intoxicated, and we look the other way because it's the star, power, but they're people, they're human beings at the end of the day, and we're all held accountable for our actions.
And also Dan Reed, the filmmaker that you mentioned before, he's not he's known for doing like reputable documentaries and films. This isn't like some hack that came along and just decided to throw like two opportunists on camera to tell their story. I found, what I've read at least, the graphic details of just from the reviews from out of Sundance, the kind of level of detail that they are describing and what had transpired between them and Michael. Either they've got wild imaginations and they are like worse than, say, like Jussie cooking up a potential hoax, or they're telling the truth. That's just from what my takeaway from. Again, none of us were in the room, but if you're looking at it, the evidentiary support says to me, like if Michael Jackson wasn't a world-renowned superstar and this was just some guy down the street that was like having his neighbors, would we even be questioning that he was guilty?
No.
Probably not. What's interesting is Oprah said in the clips that they showed from her special that over 25 years on the Oprah Winfrey show, I think she said 217 episodes, she tried to explain to people how childhood sexual abuse happens, and she was not able to really convey that. And she said, Dan Reed did it in 4 hours with this documentary. So she praised him. He's a BAFTA award-winning filmmaker.
Yeah.
He's not some hack, like you said.
Yeah.
So he is credible. And another thing is, too, Dan said that Jackson's estate is afraid that this could cause damage to, quote, the cash cow. And what he means by that is we could have the R. Kelly effect, where R. Kelly's music is no longer played on most radio stations. People are like burning his CDs.
Yeah.
And so the estate, he says the estate is concerned that could happen with Michael.
So my other question about that is, with HBO standing their ground on the lawsuit and it airing, and you saying that the guys are not going, the guys that appeared, the accusers appeared, are not getting any financial benefit from it.
They didn't get paid to appear in the film. Now,
back ends, maybe.
I don't think so, but they could be paid later for public appearances. I mean, we should put that out there. Right. They could get book deals. They could get paid for speaking engagements. So there is a potential for them to make a lot of money.
So that's more what I'm wrestling with. For anyone who will say that they were doing this for money, would you really want to stake your comeback career on, I got molested by Michael Jackson, and that's like Wade Robson was a dancer. So I don't think that's going to lead to him. Well, he's probably too old to go back to dancing.
Well, he was a choreographer. He was one of the top
Right.
choreographers in the industry. He choreographed music videos for NSYNC and Britney Spears.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't he the one that was at the not to digress, but at the core of? Isn't he the one allegedly
Yeah,
that Britney
supposedly.
cheated
Yeah.
with?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not, yeah.
God bless you, Britney. They were young.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
very young. But anyway, he was at the top of his industry.
Yeah.
And again, that is a huge stigma.
Any final thoughts from any three of you before we move on to?
I think it'll just be really interesting to watch, especially after watching the R. Kelly docuseries and seeing the fallout after that and all that's gone on with that. It'll be interesting to watch this and see how